Trying to predict the future is a discouraging and hazardous occupation because the prophet invariably falls between two stools.
What if I told you that somewhere, someone might have already cracked the code to time travel? That there are photographs, videos.
I came back to this time from the future after a failed mission. I am here to tell the truth about everything.
And eyewitness accounts suggesting people from the future have already walked among us. These aren't just urban legends. These are the most compelling alleged cases of time travelers in history. Some have strange artifacts, others have chilling predictions.
And while Einstein redefined our understanding of the universe, perhaps his greatest contribution to mankind is still to come: time travel.
And a few might make you question everything you think you know about reality. So buckle up, because we're about to journey through time and maybe even beyond it.
Wait, are you talking about a time machine?
You know the rules of time jumps, right?
Time travel, a concept that has been explored since the early 1900s.
1. The Man at the Bridge, the Hipster of 1941. We start in 1941 in British Columbia, Canada. A crowd gathers to witness the reopening of the South Fork Bridge. The photo, a perfectly ordinary snapshot of the time, should have shown nothing unusual, but decades later, historians noticed one man who didn't belong. While everyone else is dressed in suits, hats, and ties of the 1940s, this man wears a graphic t-shirt, a zip-up hoodie, and sunglasses that wouldn't be common for decades.
If this is a real time traveler, why has he traveled to the 1940s to witness a bridge reopening in Canada? Now I know some of you are thinking that you've seen this photo a million times before.
He even holds what looks like a compact modern camera. The locals that day were from 1941, but was he? Skeptics argue the clothes could be explained by rare items from the era, but even professional photo analysts confirmed this image was not tampered with. The so-called time-traveling hipster has since become one of the internet's most famous time travel mysteries. 2. The Woman on the Cell Phone, 1938. Jump forward, or maybe backward, to 1938, Massachusetts. A short piece of archival footage surfaced in the 2010s showing factory workers leaving a building. In the crowd, a woman is clearly talking into what looks like a cell phone. Slow-mo replay of woman. She laughs, speaks, and walks as though having a wireless conversation, decades before such devices existed.
Conspiracy theorists claim that the woman has been caught on film chatting on a mobile phone, decades before the technology was ever invented.
The clip comes from a film archive owned by a major U.S. media company, ruling out obvious internet fakery. The company claims the woman was actually using a portable two-way radio prototype from the period, but here's the catch. No such handheld tech existed publicly at the time, and no similar devices have ever been documented. So, was she testing technology from the future? 3. Andrew Carlssin, the stock market time traveler. In 2003, the FBI reportedly arrested a man named Andrew Carlssin for making 126 consecutive stock trades, all perfectly timed, netting him $350 million from just $800 in a matter of weeks. The official story? He was accused of insider trading, but Andrew's defense was something no court had ever heard before. Carlssin claimed he was a time traveler from the year 2256. He said he used knowledge of historical events to amass the fortune.
Kind of weird. They arrested him, and he just told me, he's like, yo, I'm from the year 2256.
That is far as from the future.
I think it's like 250 something years.
Yeah.
They didn't believe him, but then they looked at his records, and there's no record of him like before December 2002.
And offered to reveal the location of Osama bin Laden and the cure for AIDS in exchange for leniency. The tale went viral. Even mainstream outlets covered it. Then, as suddenly as he appeared, Carlssin vanished. Some believe the entire case was satire mistaken for news. But others think the The story was buried because Carlssin was telling the truth, and someone made sure he returned to his own time. 4. John Titor, the man from 2036. One of the most famous time travelers of all time never showed his face. In late 2000, a user calling himself John Titor began posting on online forums, claiming to be a soldier from the year 2036 sent back in time to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer to debug legacy systems. Titor's posts weren't just science fiction ramblings. He gave detailed descriptions of his time machine's mechanism, even sharing diagrams. He also made chilling predictions: a second American Civil War beginning in 2004, global nuclear conflict in 2015, and the breakdown of centralized governments. While many of his predictions didn't come true, at least not in our timeline, some of his technical claims about the IBM 5100 were unknown to the public until years later. Was John Titor a fraud or a traveler from a parallel timeline? The Moberly-Jourdain Incident, Versailles, 1901. In 1901, two British academics, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, visited the Palace of Versailles in France. While exploring the gardens, they claimed the world around them suddenly shifted.
Two women accidentally time traveled at Versailles and ran into Marie Antoinette. Do you believe in time travel?
The people they saw were dressed in 18th century clothing. The atmosphere felt oppressively still. And they even encountered Marie Antoinette herself sketching in a notebook. Moments later, everything returned to normal. Both women later wrote a detailed book, an adventure, documenting the experience.
An adventure becomes a sensation. The book, which included the story of how Miss Moberly had encountered Marie Antoinette in 1901, caused a sensation and a scandal.
While critics dismissed it as imagination, others suggested they'd somehow slipped through a temporal fold, briefly stepping back over 100 years into the past. 6. The Charlie Chaplin Time Phone. In 2010, filmmaker George Clark made a startling discovery while reviewing a restored DVD of Charlie Chaplin's 1928 movie, The Circus. In the background of one scene, a woman walks by holding something to her ear, talking into it, just like a cell phone. Skeptics say she could be using a hearing aid from the era, but the shape, her gestures, and the fact that she's speaking into it, just like we would today, keep the mystery alive. If it was a prank, it was the most perfectly timed one in cinema history, and over 80 years ahead of its time. 7. Rudolph Fentz, the man out of time. Finally, the legend of Rudolph Fentz. The story goes that in 1951, New York City police encountered a man in Times Square, dressed in 19th century clothes. He appeared confused, then was tragically struck by a car. In his pockets, outdated currency, business cards from a shop that hadn't existed in decades, and a letter dated 1876. When investigators traced his identity, they found that a man named Rudolph Fentz had vanished without a trace in 1876 and was never seen again. The tale spread as proof of spontaneous time travel, though later skeptics claimed it originated from a work of fiction. Still, what if the fiction was based on a real, covered-up event? Could time travel be real? Whether these stories are hoaxes, misunderstandings, or genuine glitches in the timeline, they've captivated our imaginations for decades. Science says time travel to the future is theoretically possible under Einstein's relativity, but traveling to the past, that's where things get messy. Wormholes, quantum entanglement, and parallel universes might hold the answers. Maybe these time travelers were just clever hoaxers, or maybe they were real visitors from another time, leaving us breadcrumbs in photos, videos, and whispers. And if that's true, the bigger question is, what are they doing here? And what happens next? After all, if time travel is real, we might never know until we meet someone who's already seen our future.